Hi, I'm a rip in David's jeans. Today, he's going to show you how to kill me by repairing your denim. Enjoy!
Welcome to Heddels! David Shuck here, and as you heard my friend mention, we're going to learn how to repair denim today. So, what do you do when repairing denim? It is called darning, and that is what you do to replace the threads that have worn out in your jeans, like have worn out in my Real McCoy's 991 BKs here that I have abused for about 3 years before I gave up on them, and repaired about 30 times before it became sort of an exercise in futility, which means there's still a bunch of holes in them that we can use as a demonstration for how to repair big holes, little holes, and how to identify when it is time to send it to a professional and what repairs might need some help early on. So before we get started, let's get into a little bit of the technicality behind why denim breaks down. So, like anything with abrasion of it rubbing next to each other, either that's in your crotch here, like when you're riding a bicycle, or you've got your phone here in your front pocket that's blowing out and making a little phone fade, the fibers start to break down. And denim is woven. It is a twill fabric here, which means there is a warp fabric, or warp yarns going up and down, and that is filled in by weft going side to side. So when things are breaking down, the twill of the fabric means that the warp yarns are usually on the outside. So those break down first, meaning that you have these little, stringies going side to side that are still there. So what we do when we're darning means we're basically reweaving those threads and those yarns back into the fabric with a sewing machine. So we just be going up and down over these holes to put more cotton back into the jean and making it work again. So what are you going to need? First, you're going to need a pair of jeans that are going to take the repair. You're going to need a sewing machine, which will pop out in a second. You're going to need thread, which matches the color of the jean, or I guess it doesn't have to match the color of the jean, but that's just usually what I do, so it's less noticeable. But I always use cotton thread because that is, what most jeans are made out of, and you want something that's going to break down at the same rate as the jean itself. So, like, if you use polyester thread, that means that the jean would, the jean would break down before the thread, and it would make it so that, like, where you repaired it, it would add extra stress. So you just want to put in the same that's what's there. You also want to use very thin thread because that's what's going to fill in the cracks most evenly and going to leave you with a seamless flat repair. If you use like thicker stuff, it'll often have like ridges and be sort of like lumpy and uncomfortable when you wear it, and also lead to more stress points, abrasion, and greater likelihood of breakdown. Then we're also going to need some muslin fabric, which is just like a very thin, plain woven fabric that you can use for bigger holes. If you don't have any of the weft yarns, those little side-to-side stringies hanging around, you're going to need something to go over those gaps, or else you can't just like stitch over and there's nothing there. This, if you just paste it on the inside, as we'll get to later, will give something for those new threads to find purchase on. Also going to need scissors, but those are out of reach right now. And yeah, so let's get to sewing. Okay, so now we are ready to get sewing, and the first thing we're going to try out is a tiny hole. So as you can see here, this is just a little blowout that happened right below where I keep my phone. So all we need to do is put those threads back and forth. We've got our sewing machine all laced up with black thread in the top and the bottom, And now, some machines, they have this setting on them, it's called darn, but I think that's just kind of dumb. I don't like the darn setting. Is all that does is, you can see here, it like lifts up the plate a little bit so that the feed dogs don't really have purchase. And so then as these things like roll back and forth, it doesn't do anything. But I think you get a better and cleaner stitch if you just leave it in there and roll back and forth with the reverse and forward gear on your machine. So let us get our jean up underneath here. One thing you want to make sure is that you don't have any other denim underneath this, because otherwise you are going to sew your jeans together, and you don't want to sew your jeans together, everybody. You just want to have one layer of denim that you're working on. And so we're going to drop our presser foot, and we're going to just rock a couple stitches here manually. And you want to do this pretty fine. You want to like pretty high stitches per inch. So we're just going to go roll a few stitches by hand. And then we are going to go back and forth very slowly, just so we can make sure we have our tension set right. Alright. And you can see here we've already like closed it up pretty well. That's going to hold, you know, for a decent amount of time, but we want to really fill it in. So now that it is closed up, we can add more stitches and make this as strong as it once was. So it's going to take one hand on the forward and reverse, and another hand moving the jean around. And as you can see, it's pretty well sealed up. So that hole is, I would say, complete. Say you see this part, like, right here that's next to it that looks a little bit threadbare. All sewing machines have a pretty bright light underneath them, as you can see my finger being illuminated. Neat rule of thumb: if the denim blocks the light, you're all right. If the light you can see, your junk might soon be free. You can see the light is coming through. You probably want to stitch it up. Let's do this one here, because I think you'll be able to see it a bit better on this side of the denim. And again, we're just being mindful that we're not going to sew the pants together. So let's get this one out, and then we can try our hand at the big hole. So here's our anthropomorphic friend, the big hole, that we are going to want to close up. But this one, unlike the other two, is so big that we can't just like run stitches across it. Also, it's in the leg, which is impossible to, you know, just stitch normally and not have it stitch the pant together. So what we're going to have to do is open up the side of the knee here, which I did a couple times previously. And at this point, you might be a little bit terrified. You might be thinking, David, I paid good money for these jeans to import them from the great land of Japan. I do not want to cut open the structural part of it. And just like relax. The best way you can learn how to pick something is by taking it apart. So what we're going to do is we're going to just open up the leg here, maybe for like a foot or something. Reach for your handy dandy seam ripper, which I have back here. Now we can access and sew from the inside here. But as I said, it's too big to just have it go over the top. So we need to put in more of these little pieces of muslin like I have done before. So for this, you just want something that's a little bit bigger. Muslin is so easy, you can just like rip it. And take out a piece. And this looks like it will be more than capable of covering up our big ol' rip. And what you need to do is hold this in place before we get started, because you can't just like put this in here and expect it to stay. So you either have to pin it or use a basting stitch, which is just like a fancy cooking term to like say you do a running stitch around the outside. But we can also just sort of pin it in place with our sewing machine. And hey, it's a selvage line, isn't that neat? And you want to make it so that the jean sort of like sits in the same level of tension. You don't want to like pinch it together. You want to line it up with those, let me trim this down a little bit. The rip is wide, but the rip is not tall. That looks about perfect. So as I was saying, you want the jean to hang naturally. Andrew Chen talks about this in a great video that was from like 5 years ago when he's using one of the Pro machines at Self Edge to darn. But like, you don't want to lose any of the real estate, or else like this is going to look all crumpled and weird and your fades are going to look off. Drop, press your foot. Forward, run back a little bit. And we're going to run around the outside just to hold this little piece of fabric in place. Sorry, you might not be able to see it because I got to drop this over here as it runs around. We are going to run around the outside of this hole just to keep this piece of muslin in place as we stitch over it. Make sure you aren't stitching the pants together, as I keep mentioning, because it's going to happen to you. You're going to stitch your pants together and you're not going to be happy about it. I'm not going to be happy about it. And now we're going to want to stitch it from the other side so we can see exactly where it's going, but you can see how far this, oh yeah, the patch like goes from here all the way to there. And now it's just like the other ones. We just run back and forth and put all these stitches in and replace all this busted out cotton. You always want to go over a little bit because you need something for it to grip onto. If you just stitch right up to the edge of your break, then it's going to break again like really, really soon because it needs something to like find purchase, take root on. Oh, and we broke our thread. Sometimes you're going to break thread. Breaking thread happens because you're running really fast and you're having it go and change directions a lot. And again, sew the jean together. As I said, it'll happen to you. It will happen to you. Luckily, that's not too bad. Hey, we're free. So again, kids, that is why you pay attention and don't stitch your pants together. Keep it flat, keep it clean, keep it one cohesive piece of jean. On a bigger roll like this, it might take a while. You might spend, 50 yards worth of thread putting something like this back together. And I think we're about good. Yeah, look at that. We killed him. He's not there anymore. It's fixed. You tug on it. It's solid. It's not going anywhere. Now, all we gotta do, close up this outseam, and our jeans will be ready to wear again. Make sure there's nothing hanky-panky happening down there in the bobbin. Rethread our needle again. You have to rethread your needle so many times when you sew, especially when you're spilling a lot of thread like you do when you're darning. So when you're actually like sewing projects and like making stuff, one stitch isn't all that much thread, you know? You're only spending like however long it is to sew around whatever it is, but when you're darning, you're just like turning on a fire hose of thread into your garment. But yeah, now we've got our outseam. Just want to pinch it together and sew it in here. You can see where I did it last time. I didn't cut off my thread here because I'm lazy, which is why one of the reasons why I repair things, because I'm too lazy to buy new stuff, so I just repair the old ones. Where the fades align. Sounds like a crappy love ballad, does it not? Where the fades align. Okay, so there you have it. That is how you darn your jeans. It's super easy. All you do is put them underneath the sewing machine and you go back and forth until there's not a hole anymore. It's one of the easiest things to do, which is why, you know, darning your jeans and fixing your clothes is one of the most satisfying things to do with the sewing machine when you first have it. And it's also one of the best ways to learn how clothes go together. It's like in doing these pants, I had to learn, like, this is how the pocket goes on. This is how a coin pocket goes on. I like darned this even. And, you know, your repairs might seem a little bit, you know, discolored at first, but the more you wear them, the more it's just going to fade in and it's going to look nice. But, like, as I said, repairing your clothes, it's really satisfying, it's really easy, and it's cheap, and it helps save the environment because you don't have to buy new stuff, and it makes you feel like enjoy your stuff a bit better because you can wear it. It's like you're going the distance with it. Like you and your jean, you're like Apollo Creed and Rocky in Rocky 2. You're gonna go until you hit that last bell. Darning jeans, easy, fun. We should all do it. Alright, thanks, and we'll check back with you again soon when I figure out something else to, I don't know, demonstrate via video while I'm stuck here in quarantine. Thanks, bye!
Thanks for watching.